Hi everyone, my name's Lesley O'Toole. I'm a contributor to Backstage and the Los Angeles Times, and I'm delighted to introduce our guest, who, as you can probably imagine, is one of the hottest things in the UK right now. All anybody can talk about is Andrew Scott, the hot priest. But of course, you've seen him in many other things, from Spectre to Sherlock, and you might have seen his TV version of Hamlet. He played that on stage at the Alameda in London to massive acclaim a couple of years ago. Anyway, it's my great honour to introduce Andrew Scott.
Hello everybody.
Welcome. So clearly, it's not a coincidence that you almost steal this second season from the Lady of the Hour herself. You and Phoebe go back 10 years when you did a play together.
Yes, yeah.
But I understand that this happened, you just heard from her out of the blue one day after a long time. Can you talk about how this came about?
Yes, she called me last summer. I'd of course seen the first series, and like everybody else, loved it. Yep. But she called me last summer, and we ended up meeting in Soho, where we'd done the play. We did the sort of fringe play in this in the Soho Theatre in Soho in London, and then we had this extraordinary 3-hour
stroll around
Soho, and I actually took her to a venue that appears in the one of the forthcoming episodes of the show, and we spoke for about 3 hours and about love and loss and religion. We talked an awful lot about religion and trying to create a character that we haven't really seen on television before. I think a lot of the time Catholics are conveyed, as the human side of them aren't really seen. So and we talked about love and how it, at the surprising way, it manifests itself.
And had you agreed at the end of the 3 hours that you were going to do it?
Yes,
because you hadn't
absolutely.
seen anything yet.
No, I hadn't seen any scripts, and at the very end of it, I said, "Yeah, I'll definitely do this." And then I rang my agent, told her. But yeah. So it was great. It was. I just knew there's something about Phoebe's energy. I think the most extraordinary thing about her is that she's able to two things are able to exist at once. Great comedy and great tragedy. The series develops in the most extraordinary way. I mean, that isn't public relations, me saying that. It is genuinely such beautiful, beautiful television, and it's really had this enormous impact back in London. And I think it's because she's able to be playful, and a lot of actors will really appreciate the idea that, like, a lot of the time when you're on set, the main job seems to be to complete the call sheet, just to get it done, and and actually what she's able to do so brilliantly is to be playful on the day, so that you feel like she comes up with ideas, so many things that are still in the show, or things that we created on the day, not so much plots and everything, but these extraordinary ideas, and the idea that we're in charge when they say action till they say cut. That's your time, and rather than just feeling this enormous pressure from completing the.
It sounds like she's a very generous actor when she could be a control freak, since it's very much her show.
Yeah,
she's
well,
a great
absolutely.
writer, but
yeah. It's a big task. You have to have a generosity of spirit, I think, to allow people to do their thing, but also to have a. You want to be you want a benign dictator.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. You've already used the word human, and yes, it is a very humanist portrayal of a priest. We haven't seen someone like this. You might be interested to know that in the UK, apparently, sales of gin and tonic in a can have increased exponentially since the show aired, and probably
25%,
will here.
25%.
No way.
And
there you go.
I got to tell you that priest porn. This is not a joke. Has apparently religious pornography has increased by 125%.
No way. Oh my God, that's absolutely incredible.
So that was an article. These extraordinary,
Wow.
the impact of the show has been like these weird articles and how these facts that sort of are emerging over the. But that's the latest one. I heard that 2 days ago.
I mean, it's not the first
The
time.
results are in.
Is it the show or is it you? Because you had a very similar thing happened when you appeared on Sherlock long ago.
No, I think people do have a. I think people do have a priest. Definitely, there must be a priest thing.
I think so too. I mean, was that important to you that he was portrayed this way? If he'd been a conventional type that we've seen before, would it have been less appealing?
I hope so. I was brought up in Catholic Ireland myself, and certainly the damage of the Catholic Church remains with me to a certain degree, even though I put that to bed now, I hope, for the most part.
Do we ever?
Do we ever? Well, exactly. But yeah, I think the idea of desexualizing people, whoever they may be, I think is a very dangerous one. And so the idea of what happens to men and women of the church, what they do with their sexuality, is a very interesting one to me, because of just what happens to their human instincts. And I think sometimes the way we talk about people of the church in relation to, we talk about the damage they've done, we talk about terrible child abuse and all those awful things that when I was going to school in the 90s, every week in Ireland there were these horrendous abuse cases, literally weekly. So it's just to try and I suppose be a bit temperate about it, because it's not Phoebe's great gift, I think, is to talk about people's humanity. It's been hailed really as a great feminist show, but for my money, she's a great humanist. She's interested in all of humanity, and she's a great philosopher, actually, I think, and I think that really develops in the show.
I mean, she and Sharon Horgan with Catastrophe and Divorce, and also Deborah Davis, who wrote The Favourite 20 years ago when Hollywood wouldn't touch it because of its lesbian element. Yeah. All of these women seem to be very much at the vanguard of a change in our popular culture, and I mean television, film, everywhere. I mean, why do you think that is? And obviously, this sort of medium translates so well internationally, as we can see. I mean, although I also feel that it's quintessentially British also. Why do you think it has this worldwide appeal?
I think it's patronizing to a certain degree. What I think sometimes happens when it's female work is that people talk about the femaleness of the work rather than the work itself. And what's significant about it is that the numbers are so low. Mm-hmm. There's just not very a lot of times when you're on a set where the boss is a female, but that doesn't mean that I suppose it's just dangerous. This is very, very extraordinary, unique, adventurous work. And I don't think audiences are genuinely interested in box ticking. I think they're interested in really strong work, wherever that may come from. And I think that's the important thing to remember. And it's just important that those numbers increase. But not just for any, as somebody who's a minority myself, I don't as a gay person feel like I want to get employed for that reason. Mm-hmm. I think you have to sometimes work a little harder, but that's certainly no bad thing. It's just the numbers, the playing field has to become more even, and that's what when we should look at the talent of the individual.
And that is happening. I loved a quote I read that you said your favourite thing about playing him was playing love, and I just wonder if you can explain that at all.
Well, I suppose I did. It's something that I've done work a lot in the theatre, and I as an actor, anybody here will say that you don't want one story to become to overtake the others, and I think for a while. Playing very extreme characters, villains to a certain degree. They were the ones that had sort of international, because it was James Bond and Sherlock was a big show. And but I've always worked on smaller films and stuff like that. And I suppose as myself, I'm a like a romantic person, and I felt like I was never able to sort of express that in my work. And I suppose I'm the kind of acting I enjoy watching is is delicate and human, and I became, I think, maybe just less interested in playing freakish characters, because I think we contain multitudes, and I just wanted to play love. A romantic comedy, I think, is something that is vastly underrated.
And you mentioned, obviously, you're an out gay actor playing a straight role. 20 years ago, that might not have happened. It certainly didn't happen for someone like Rupert Everett at your age. And, Girls, Andrew Reynolds is playing a straight character on the Showtime series Black Monday now. And, there's very little comment on it. The comment I've seen is about your incredible chemistry with Phoebe, not about the fact that you're gay. I mean, is there a real sea change occurring for people like you?
I hope that has wider implications. I think that it's become a sort of story in England about that. It's always fascinated me that chemistry is an extraordinary thing. Phoebe and I just have it. We just have really great chemistry.
Absolutely, it's phenomenal.
I feel like it's almost insulting to both of us to think that is something that would be beyond our
capacity.
And also, it's also a very strange thing about comparing yourself to other gay actors. I don't think that happens to straight actors. I don't think you go to Daniel Radcliffe, well, you're the same as Sylvester Stallone. Yeah. You have the same quality because you don't. You just, so that terrible thing that you just want to rip off. I've been quite ferocious about that in a quiet way about the stuff that we should be allowed to play. But the important thing is to. It's something I say a lot. Being gay is not a flaw, but nor is it a virtue. It's not a talent. It's not something you can actually develop. It's something that you have. So it's actually not possible to cultivate it, and so you just have to get good. So the only important thing in this age where we're talking about representation so much, I don't think we should forget too much about transformation, because when we're kids and our parents tell a story to us and they put on a funny voice, you think, oh my God, that's wonderful, because it speaks to me of empathy, but again, it has to be about the who gets to play that, and the playing field hasn't been even. But that I just don't think we should be distracted about what the purpose of art is, which is to be empathetic. Yeah.
Did you and Phoebe have that chemistry when you did the play together?
We did. We definitely did. I remember. Yeah, that was quite saucy, that play.
I'm sensing a theme.
Yeah. It was. We did. Yeah, it's extraordinary thing, chemistry.
It is. Yeah.
It really is. You just either have it or you don't. And she's so. We have this extraordinary editor as the series progresses. It without giving anything away. I don't mean chemistry necessarily has to be romantic chemistry. It's just where you just enjoy acting with the person, isn't it?
Yes, we can't take your eyes off the pair of you. Is it really something that you just know immediately? I mean, have you ever had to work on developing chemistry when it just wasn't there?
Yeah, I think you can sort of fake it a little bit, can't you? But that's what the audience wants to see. I think that's the really important thing to remember. When I used to find that quite on bigger budget films, when it's so overwhelming and there's huge sets and it costs 300 million quid to make the thing, and you're there and you're so intimidated by the thing. And I think the really important thing is to remember is playfulness. You play a part. That's what you do. You play. Yep. And I think sometimes serious acting is the kind of thing that I abhor in a sense, the idea of high art and low art, and you have to be playful. And sometimes I think in the attempt to win prizes and awards, you tell the audience so much about how much homework you've done. I mean, I always think that's like if somebody's come round to your house for dinner and you say, oh my God, we spent 2 hours vacuuming. you know, because you don't want to know. You just don't welcome. You know, it's like that's not their business. you know, you just go come and enjoy. And I just think sometimes it's a way of, you know, I get it, and that's not to say that work shouldn't be done, but it's not really it's not what should be prioritized to my mind. And so I feel like being playful and keeping that chemistry alive, even if you're on a big set, you have to remember, okay, what matters, because I've seen it where they've spent millions of pounds on sets, and you go, the script or the actual thing that all audiences are engaged with, is just completely neglected. Yeah. You know, which I think is why sometimes CGI feels like it's going on the down low now, because people are like, I'm not sure people are that interested in that. Ultimately. Yeah.
So given that you had a brilliant script here for every episode, presumably, and you did mention that things evolved, I mean, what did evolve? Is she precious about her words? I mean, are you literally improvising?
Yeah. She is very specific about words. She go, I prefer that. Don't say 9:30. Say 9:30. Don't say, you know, just say, you know, those things. And that's true, because language is, some words are funny and some weren't. But then you're also I'm going to say this because I love when you say that. But I like the idea. I think some of the most unhappy experiences that I've had on set is when there is no leader. And I think as actors, a lot of the time you feel like, I have to save the day here. I have to save it because these people haven't got a clue. So you go, but actually when somebody goes, no, I liked it when you did that. I liked it when you did that. And then you go, okay, I'll give it up. I'll do that for you. And I think it allows everybody to do the job that they're doing. And you know, that shouldn't be understated, because actors have to have a kind of directorial instinct as well about the rhythm of the scene and all that kind of stuff. And if somebody has that and you trust them, it's so fantastic, because you really do feel creative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What is the secret to her success, do you think? I mean, she's so incredibly, she's so phenomenally young. I mean, even back then, 10 years ago, did you think, oh yes, you know, this girl is going far?
A spark of divine fire, doesn't she? I do think it's about understanding humanity, the absurdity of it. Yeah. And she knows how to have a good time. And it's one of those things, you can't really explain it. But she's kind. She's a kind person. Mm-hmm. And I think that allows her to say these outrageous things that could actually be cruel or sort of arch in other people's. Yeah. But she's got a big old romantic heart. Yeah. I love her. I absolutely love her. Yeah.
It's wonderful. Yeah. You mentioned you went to Catholic school in Ireland, as did I. I also went to a very strict Catholic school. I know what it does.
I'm sorry for your trouble.
Does to you. It was trouble. But you actually started acting to develop your confidence at school, not because you desperately wanted to be an actor. So can you talk about that journey, and at what point you thought, I'm really good at this, and maybe it could be a career?
Well, I had a sort of a lisp, a really quite strong lisp when I was a kid. I started to speak like this, and I was also really shy. So I sort of spoke like this, and so my mother was a bit like, oh God, what's going on there? But I used to watch, you know, those big sort of Hollywood films, you know, old school films when I was a kid. I sort of loved them. And there were these wee drama classes that started on a Saturday afternoon. And I sort of said, okay, well, maybe I'll go. And I used to go, and I was like terrified. But then something happened when I went in there, and I did feel frightened, but I felt like alive.
You felt free.
I felt free, absolutely, and I suppose I felt that I was good at it in some way, or I could put on accents or whatever the hell it was. And then, that just sort of. Then when I was about 17, I got a lead part. These casting directors came to our little drama group, and I got a lead part in a film. And then I went to the Abbey Theatre in Dublin when I was about 18 or 19, and I did a series of plays there, and I got kind of addicted to good writing. I really do think I'm very grateful. I sometimes look at young actors who get success very early, and I think, whoa, it's very difficult, because you're told so much, as you know, you're this, well, you're going to be this, you're never going to be that, well, you're just so much, these waves of opinion, and I feel very grateful that I was able to act without too much scrutiny.
Absolutely.
And to do all these things, and to understand that writing, somebody putting their autograph on good writing, is the writer, to my mind, is the actor's best friend, even more so than a director, I think.
So does that very much inform your choices then in all roles?
Yeah. There has to be some sort of thing where you think that's unusual, whether that's in the part or certainly in the theatre. I feel like it's even if that's visual, if there's something slightly askew, but for the most part, it's because I don't think you can make a great movie out of a mediocre script.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hollywood keeps trying.
They keep trying.
So you said you got to act under the radar for quite a long time. When did you become so very obviously above the radar? I mean, was it Sherlock that changed
Sherlock,
everything?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was 30, I think I was 33, or, I've been working for a long time. I always say this about, I think it's very dangerous the way actors are spoken about in the media, because history is told backwards. Just a successful actor to me, I in a way, I just for actors, young actors who are starting off, there are loads of successful actors that aren't famous.
Oh, yeah.
That are able to move in between genres and theatre and film and TV and radio and do their own stuff, that are successful because they're doing it. And but as regards sort of castability or all that kind of stuff, there's no doubt that being in a show that was sold all around the world just helps. And but having said that, I didn't feel like I was a failure when I wasn't famous, and I didn't feel like I was a success when I was. I didn't feel like there was still stuff, probably even more so after Sherlock, that I thought, yeah, but I don't want to just. It's not over, it's not a destination. There's still, so something like this. I spoke to my agent for years. Actually, I was like, I said I'd love to do something, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that isn't within my gift, but there is stuff that I feel like they're about being romantic is the wrong word, but certainly that kind of character that's closer to myself is appealing to me, because the more I work in the industry, the more I feel like it's not about pretending to be someone else. It's exploring different parts of yourself, and I think working out who you are is very, very beneficial to your work as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't think it's any coincidence that when I was uncomfortable with myself, I was very comfortable with playing freakish, crazy, outlandish. I found that easy, and then the more comfortable I became with myself, the more I thought, yeah, but there's this other. So I think it's just being able to. Somebody said a beautiful thing, which is it's playing with different parts of yourself, but still remaining intact. You can take a risk, but not too much of a risk. To me, it's a very, I think it's kind of an honourable thing to do for a living, contrary to what a lot of people think.
So presumably Sherlock then also changed things professionally for you substantially. I mean, did you immediately see a change in terms of offers and that sort of thing?
Yeah, but a lot of them were, variations on a theme.
Of course.
So that was actually the time where I changed representation and all that kind of stuff, because there was a lot of stuff about fame and money and profile, and I think you've got to go nope.
You mean you were being pushed in a more commercial direction?
Yeah, there was sort of decisions at one point, and I thought, no, that you don't really understand what the value of it. I think a really important tool for actors is to be able to know what the value of something is. Mm-hmm. What's its actual value? And that's not financial value or something. It's what's its value. Genuinely, what's it going to do? What am I going to learn? And how is it going to change the story for me? And that doesn't mean that I'm like, oh my God, I just want to just float around. That doesn't mean, I don't think that being business minded and being able to discern what's of value are mutually exclusive, Yeah, I still feel like, the war is never over. You've got to go, what's let's not coast around, because we're not here long. So I want to play as much as I can. So why play one type of thing just because to be able to buy some stupid house?
We have someone here who saw you doing Hamlet at the Almeida in London. And
don't worry, it's over now. That's 4 hours long.
There was a review in London's Financial Times, and the journalist said, I've seen so many Hamlets. I mean, obviously so many great actors have played Hamlets, and he thought yours was the best. And obviously you achieved huge acclaim for that role. How on earth did you approach that?
Well, Hamlet's such a fascinating thing because there are, I think there's something like 700 books written on Shakespeare. How do you speak Shakespeare? How do you blah, blah, blah. I think if you did that to any other writer, a contemporary writer, you would absolutely suffocate. All the actors would be terrified. You'd think, oh my God. And I think there's a certain degree of terror about Shakespeare that actors feel like that. Oh, I'm not in possession. I certainly felt it. I'm not in possession of the gift that you need to have in order to speak Shakespeare. And that's just not true. He was so his work is incredibly actable, so febrile, and so we wanted to be able to. My big thing to Rob Icke, who's this sort of extraordinary director who directed it, was to be able to speak it as conversationally as possible, and for me to understand everything that I could. Because there's a way of sort of speaking Shakespeare that sort of sounds like it's like a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy of something that you go, well, this sounds like Shakespeare, even though it sounds like another Shakespeare production that I didn't understand. So, and then it just sort of, and so to sort of crack that open was the biggest challenge. And Rob, our director, said this brilliant thing is like, Shakespeare shouldn't be like eating your greens. It shouldn't be like,
yes.
Come on, watch your Shakespeare. It was it was like a 4 hour,
great line.
4 hour production, and to bring young people to the theatre, you've got to make it as exciting as a box set. Because people will watch, a 16-year-old will watch 7 hours of television. Go, oh my God, we live in the box set generation. Yes. Come on, let's watch another one. Yep. It's not about the time. It's about make it as exciting. It's a thriller, and it's about mental health. And I had to. It's an extraordinary part because you have to explore all those different parts of you. He's a prince. He's got to be really funny. He's a lover. He's a soldier. All those things, and it takes a lot of stamina. We did it 150 times, and we had to do it twice a day. It's 4 hours long. Yeah, and it's extraordinary. It's 1,500 lines. Thank you for your support. But anyway, yeah.
What's your regimen when you're doing something so physically demanding as that?
Theatre is exhausting. It's you just sleep a lot and
eat really well.
Well, no, I don't really eat. I like. I've got the sweet tooth of like anything that you would give a 4-year-old child. Yeah. Chocolate. I just eat Cadbury's chocolate. Yeah, it's genuinely that's what I did.
Yeah.
That's not a good tip for anybody.
Yeah. The person that saw you said, I notice you play opposites a lot when approaching text. How do you approach a role without falling into conventional traps? Not necessarily just for Hamlet.
It's a hard question to answer.
Yes.
I don't know. I think the most important thing is to go, what do I think? What do I think? Mm-hmm. And to really take a bet on yourself and go, if I get it wrong, as I have so many times, I think it's really important, when we're talking about safe spaces and things that are, I don't think that terrible thing, I think it was Mike Pence said that, when there was all that Hamilton controversy, and they said theatre should be a safe space. And I thought, no, it shouldn't. Theatre is not a safe space. It's not a safe space. Yeah. That's somewhere where you go to be challenged and to be like, oh my God, this is where you... So I think the ability to be able to make a real idiot out of yourself and go, that was wrong. And, a lot of the time, I get it really wrong in rehearsals or on takes. But if you're going to be... You got to try something. And I think sometimes the most boring acting is when you think somebody's just... they're just sort of... it's just dull.
Yeah.
And people have an extraordinary way of expressing themselves, and I don't know. I just think you just go, look, it's not it's not take it too seriously, and to play with some degree of freedom. I don't know if that's opposite, but it's just it's just ask the questions, and that's why it's not safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also did a TV version of King Lear, and you said Sir Anthony Hopkins was the most engaged actor you think you've ever worked with.
He's incredible.
Why?
He's 80. I just find it so moving.
Yeah.
No, that's not why. But like, I find that really moving that somebody who's 80 years old and he's been doing it for so long, because he was given this incredible part, which 80-year-olds aren't given so much, that he was just like ready to eat it. Yeah. And he was so ferocious and interested and kind of childlike in a way. And that's what he has, that in great abundance, which is that sort of simplicity. I think it's Picasso said, I spent my whole life trying to play like a child, trying to paint like a child. Mm-hmm. I thought, yeah, there's something in that. And that's hard, you know. And I think careerism for actors is I think the thing that bleeds us dry a little bit. You go, you know, that's hard to you can get drowned in that about getting to a certain place. But anyway, Anthony Hopkins he's got it all. He's got it all. He's got a darkness and he's got an incredible lightness, and he was incredibly kind. Kindness is a big one for me. I think if you don't have kindness, I don't see how you can be a really good actor. Yeah.
And then what about your gigantic movie experiences like Spectre? What do you take from those sorts of films?
Well, it's fun. Mm-hmm. It's fun. Sam Mendes, I've worked with a few times. Yeah. It's one of the great things about acting is coming back with Phoebe 10 years ago, working as we were in this little theatre. The one I did with Sam was not the little small thing; it was a play on Broadway. But he invited me back, and he's got loads of theatre-y types in Spectre and Skyfall, Judi Dench, and Ben Whishaw, and all these brilliant Rafe Fiennes and all those people. But I did find it intimidating, and actually, if I'm honest, I think I could have been more courageous then. I think I could have.
In what regard?
I don't know. I think I could have made that character a little bit better.
Really? Don't think anyone has any complaints.
Oh, well, I'm sure they do.
And are you still filming 1917, or is that?
Yeah, it's still filming. Yeah, it's still filming.
Well,
yeah.
this is his latest film, Sam Mendes, which reunites you, of course, with Mr. Cumberbatch.
Yes, yeah.
And Richard Madden, the bodyguard. Mark Strong, Colin Firth. What a cast!
Yeah, unbelievable cast.
And you've come a long way in war films from being a soldier on the beach and Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, that's what I used to say.
Yeah,
I was a soldier, and Tom Hanks rolled over me when I was 19. I'm not trying to create a movement.
Can you tell us a little about that and how it is reuniting with Sam and Mr. Cumberbatch?
It's great. It's going to be a really extraordinary film. I think he's got a very particular connection with World War One, and he's got, without giving too much away, sorry, there'll be a sniper shooting me if I give away information, but it's a very particular visual thing that he's doing with this film, so I think it's going to be like unlike any war film we've seen before. Yeah.
How though? There's so many war films.
I know.
Who are you playing? Is there any, can you tell us?
I play a lieutenant. Sorry, but yeah, you'll know what I mean when you see the film.
Very good. Who else that you've worked with has really struck you? I noticed you mentioned that Ken Loach knew all the extras' names on set, which is unheard of.
Oh, he was like Rain Man. He was like, he'd come in here and he'd know everybody's names, and then it's kindness.
I mean, that never happens. That's you're exactly right. It's kindness.
It's a thing that he just refuses to give up just because he's a famous film director. And I think you have to kind of hold on to your kindness a little bit, because success is wonderful, but you've got to remember, I don't know, you got to. It's of more value to be kind, I think, than to be to be cruel, and you can become. I've seen it happen to people. You can become kind of neurotic, and it can be an exercise with successful actors. I've seen a little bit in making sure that you get your own way. That's the, and I think that comes a lot out of fear, because I do think actors a lot have to save the day. I'm very pro actors. I think most of them, maybe because I kind of understand them and I've worked with them all my life, and I think actors can be very generous because you're in the empathy game. Great people, sexy people. But
did someone say hot priest?
Yeah, Ken Loach was incredible. But actors are my favourite. Are like I've got loads of. I always find it a little bit strange when you hear actors saying, "Oh, I don't have any actor friends. I just have friends from school. I don't hang out with actors." And I think, well, do why not? Why don't you?
Yeah.
Because they're your colleagues, and I think to be competitive with other actors it's just dumb. Absolutely. It's just dumb. Yep. And it's so eroding. Because if someone's going to get a part that if you're always going up against each other, then look to yourself. I don't know. I just think look to yourself in some way.
Absolutely. You also have a film that was just released this week, A Dark Place, that I believe is playing at the Arena Cine Lounge this week, and will be available on demand.
Yes.
How long ago did you make that film?
It was about 2 years ago. So it takes a while. An independent film took a while to find its audience. And but it's come out really weirdly. Fleabag has just come out in the past 6 weeks, and it's been genuinely extraordinary reaction to it. And wait till you see how this show develops. Honestly, it's so it's so beautiful. Genuinely. I usually don't watch the stuff I'm in anymore. But I've watched Fleabag, the whole series. I've watched it 3 times. It's just so good. And why am I telling you that? Because of this other film that's coming out. This other film is coming out, and it's really different. Very different character. It's a guy who's kind of not neurotypical, and it's set in mid-America, and he's a bin man. And we've got we shot it just outside Atlanta in Georgia, and he's got all his clothes bought all my costume in front of Walmart for $5, and it's completely different to this. So it's really nice. I love American movies, so I was really, really delighted to be. It's my first American indie film, so yeah.
So can you talk a little more about the reaction in the UK? Because when I told my friends I was coming to interview Andrew, they all went berserk, and it really is a phenomenon. Yeah, there. I mean, what's it like for you on the street? I mean, you have a very distinctive face anyway.
It's been incredible. People adore it. I think Phoebe's just captured something for people. There's a beautiful. I think you saw it in there in episode 1. I mean, those scenes that she writes between Bill Patterson, who plays her father, that line when he says, "You're looking well," and she goes, "Are we going to have a fight?" I mean, it's such an extraordinary thing. And that line, line, I don't want to give it away, but where I talk about my brother and why I don't speak to him anymore. There was a different line originally, and that was a bad word, and the BBC didn't want that bad word, and so they had to come up with an alternative about why, and that's what Phoebe came up with. And that just shows the mind at work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's also this sort of incredible sense of melancholy that it is the last season when we've only had 2.
Yes.
Do you think it really is?
Well, the door is never closed, as I say, but I think the finality of it is kind of part of its beauty in a way. Her great gift as the series goes on is that you just feel this incredible sense of love. There's such an incredible sense of love and loss in it, and I think part of that is the fact that she just writes what she wants to write, and she's ferocious about going, no, I don't feel like I don't have to write more if I don't have to. But then again, she said that about the first series too.
Yeah.
So who's to know?
So you clearly don't have a problem playing at work, but I'm just wondering, is there anything else you've taken from this series?
Just the costume.
Yeah. We know what you're going to be for Halloween.
Exactly. Yeah. Anything I've taken from it? Just that I really do believe it's playing Hamlet, which they say is a great tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
You can't play great tragedy. You can't play great tragedy without understanding that the lightness has to be played. There's no tragedy for Hamlet if he didn't enjoy being alive. You have to reach for the lightness in a tragedy, and likewise in comedy you have to reach for the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And those for those really great pieces of art, I think, and I do believe Fleabag is a great piece of art. I think it's just those opposites, like the lady was saying in the question. I think opposites are two opposites being contained in the same moment is what great drama is made of, and what great nuance is made of, and cartoonish characters where you go, that's bad, that's good. I think it's really exciting when people go, I thought that priest was a bit, or I thought this. I think that we all have separate reactions to drama is a sign of good drama.
Yep. Somebody else wanted to know if you'd had any flack from any Catholic priests or staunch Catholics at all.
No, I think actually Catholics have been really responsive to it because it's made it relevant. And there was a big article the other day about allowing Catholic priests to marry because they're on the wane. I mean, even when I was growing up, there was very few young Catholics, and I think that idea of how do you keep your faith and still be a sexual, kind person who's interested in your community, those two things have to coexist as well. It's opposites again. So no, not too much flack. No.
And you might have heard that Phoebe is rewriting the upcoming Bond film.
Yes.
So, any chance of a role in yet another Bond film?
No. I think I've had my time on James Bond. I fell from a very tall building.
Oh, I disagree.
Yeah. Well, who's to know? Who's to know? Yeah. Yeah, but that's great. She's doing that. That's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, on that note, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thanks for coming. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I'm sorry you have to all wait for May the 17th to watch the rest of it, but enjoy.
Thank you very much for coming, everybody.